Hello, BookTube. Today I'll be reviewing, I believe this is the first historical fiction novel reviewed in this channel. It's called Sarum by Edward Rutherford. As you can see here, my copy is pretty water damaged. Got caught in the rain a couple times, but it still reads well. Anyway, so before we begin, I'd like to say this book has a lot of graphic violence and sex, so some readers and maybe viewers might be turned off by that. But I'd also like to say that it has something else that many modern books, even more graphics, wouldn't have, and that's a lot of pedophilia, and which is frightening to think about. But the thing is, so the idea is, it takes place. It's a historical fiction novel about the entire history of this region of England called Sarum, and because of that, they go from literally the Stone Age to the modern day. So people with sexual mores are completely different than what they are today, and so the idea of that there being a big age gap, like think of the Romeo and Juliet thing, makes sense. So it makes sense in the historical context, but I can imagine a lot of viewers being turned off and they say, wait, that girl's only 13? What? Yeah, so I would not recommend it to everyone on that regard. I didn't have a problem with it personally because I knew it had to be there for historical context, but not everyone would appreciate that. But now on to the actual review. So it's a historical fiction novel, and it is the debut novel of this author named Edward Rutherford. I've read one of his books before called London, and all of his books follow a similar structure. The idea is that there's 6 fictional families in this real-life location, and the idea is it traces the history of the location to the stories of the fictional families. And this one was made in 1987. It's his debut novel. And you can tell it's his debut novel, I think, because at least I read London a long time ago, but from what I remember about it, that was much more polished than this one. So the problems with this one is that the chapters and such aren't really well balanced. Some chapters are much longer than other ones. Some are very short. And I feel there's not enough focus given to certain families at times. Like, there are some families that clearly dominate one chapter, and then other families are just completely left out. I didn't think that was very fair. I don't remember exactly what London was like, but I feel like they might have possibly, since it was a later book, he may have gotten better with that and given those families more screen time and made more even-length chapters. I also don't entirely agree with the way they handled time periods, because the way it works is each chapter is in a different time period. I feel like some of them could have been longer. Again, this is the uneven chapters thing. And there are some time periods that just aren't very interesting, and Edward Rutherford can't really make them interesting. Probably the worst of these is the Roman rule chapter, which is about the area of Sarum under Roman rule. And he spends a lot of time talking about the economic development of the area, but he can't really make it that interesting. I feel like in London, although it might be because London is just kind of necessarily a more historically important place, every chapter had some interesting thing about it. Even the ones where not a whole lot happened historically, there's always more of a story going on. So I feel like he could have done a better job there. But that brings me to another thing with the book, in which you could either love it or hate it. And I personally really liked it because I'm the kind of person who likes long books and long descriptions. But that would be the very long descriptions of different things. So the book has the purpose of informing people and entertaining people about at the same time. It's informing people about English history. I think it's misleading how they kind of marketed the novel as the novel of England. That's actually where I thought it might be, instead of like London focusing on a particular place. It does focus, it's meant to be around Sarum, although occasionally goes to other places as is needed. But the problem is they keep talking a lot about the architecture and the culture and any topic the author thinks is interesting. And I find it interesting, so I have no problem with it. But a lot of readers would be turned off. So really, Sarum, I think Edward Rutherford's novels in general, are really novels meant for like the history enthusiast. A big problem I have with his writing, though, is that he tends to not really leave anything to the surprise or to the imagination, and at least in this book, I remember things being much more subtle, I think, in London, but in this book, if something big is about to happen to the characters, rather than let it happen, well, he does, but he'll tell you it's going to happen before it happens, and I find this rather annoying because it just ruins suspense. However, I would like to say I should get back to more positive stuff. This book, it reminds me in a very good way of one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Roots. And Roots was a show, about this family of African Americans from slavery to eventually freedom. And what I found in common about both sides is that when characters in this book have challenges and struggles, they often aren't overcome until their descendants get to them. And I find that interesting. It's like, the idea is almost like the families themselves are like characters, and they maintain common traits. That's another thing about this book, and his books in general, is that there's various Easter eggs that kind of keep you engaged for the families and kind of unite the families as one single character. In this one of the families had these longer toes than other families, and they're known for being kind of suspicious or they're scheming guys, and they are very good at fishing. That was the family called the Wilsons. And I remember in London, there's a family called the Ducats, which are known for having webbed feet. However, in this book, I feel like the Easter eggs either they're pointed out very obviously, like it will just say completely, which I feel is a bit, I didn't like that because I would preferred those Easter eggs to be more subtle. But other times he kind of forgets about the Easter eggs. And there was one Easter egg in particular I was hoping would appear at the very end, and I was very disappointed when it did not. So the ending I thought was rather disappointing, especially since it was like a short chapter and they focused mainly on one family as opposed to the other ones. So I wasn't too happy with the ending exactly. But the book as overall I did really like. Let's see what else here. I'd say yeah. So I recommend this book if you like historical fiction, but you like very, very dense historical fiction with lots of information and lots of learning that you get about it from the time period. I can recommend this book. However, I would say that it is Edward Rutherford's first book, and so it's not as most polished. And to be honest, you could argue Sarum as an area isn't hugely interesting at times. These are some periods in which just not a whole lot happens to it. Like I said earlier, they're about the Roman rule period. So anyway, overall, I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it, but it's not the best of Edward Rutherford's work. I think I much preferred London, although I did read it a long time ago. I think this is his longest book, though. I looked at the word counts online. I couldn't get a reliable one, so I don't know for sure. But I think this is his longest book. It took me a little while to read it. But anyway, so if you like historical fiction, you like this book. And anyway, thank you for watching. Again, try to please the algorithm gods and give me, likes, comments, subscribes, that sort of thing. And yeah, have a nice day.